There's a lot of branches of tourism, but have we ever heard of Astro-tourism? Well, I hadn't until I recently connected with an old martial arts teacher of mine, now turned entrepreneur, Joseph Pooley. Joseph runs his very own bespoke stargazing tours and tuition in Lake Tekapo of New Zealand, what we'd consider the epicenter for astrotourism. Through Joe, I learned that conservation is actually a huge part of astrophotography for monitoring the artificial light and the multiple dark sky reserves we are so lucky to have around New Zealand, how he captures the night sky and some of the artwork he sells, and more interestingly, the journey of what it took to leave a stable job as a mechanic to pursue his passion in photography, and eventually start his own business. In his words, sometimes you just gotta take that leap of faith. So for fellow photography enthusiasts, tourists, potential entrepreneurs, and others, today let's tune in and learn with Joseph Pooley. Hi everyone, my name is Alpha, and for those of you who don't know, I have a platform called Grow the Good New Zealand. This is really a series of projects that aim to inspire people to pursue their dreams and also to share a little bit of insight and awareness about the challenges and things that are involved when we take that first step. I'm really passionate about this space because I believe everyone has a special gift. It's a really beautiful thing to see people have that spark and pursue it and see that side of them when we get caught up in the everyday routine of, say, a 9-to-5 job. When we grow up, we have certain ways of living a fulfilling life, but to challenge that and to constantly reflect on what our life purpose is something that I believe is always a great thing to talk more about and to share with people. So today we have a very, very special guest, Joseph. Thanks so much, Joseph.
Thanks, Alpha. My name's Joseph Pooley, and I am living here in the beautiful Lake Tekapo of New Zealand's South Island. Professionally, I am formerly a car mechanic. I was a car mechanic for probably about a decade and a half, and not too far into that career, I sort of realised I didn't really like doing it that much. And through a lot of hard work and persistence and self-belief, many years down the track, I now work self-employed as a photographer. I'm a professional commercial photographer, as well as a recreational one. But somewhere along the line I moved into tourism, two very much crossover, which I guess will become clear as we move on. But I also am sole owner operator of a small astrotourism company, which offers stargazing tours to tourists, and also astrophotography tuition. These activities, which I'm now lucky enough to do professionally, very much cross over into my own personal interests.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Joe's actually a previous sensei of mine.
In a former life, yeah.
Just really fascinating to be reconnected in this way. Just really inspired by people, see how their life pans out and the work that they're doing now. And I'm really interested in the mindset and the things that happen between going from one career, for example, or what made you change into another space.
We can talk about that in many facets, whether it's personal or whether it's professional. So I've had many phases of decision making through that whole process, and it depends really how far back we want to go.
What made you shift from being a mechanic to doing the work you do now?
When I was in Hamilton and I was running the karate club, which you were a part of at the time, I was also working as a car mechanic, and I had been for probably about 10 years at that time. 2013, I came out of quite a long relationship, and I've sort of felt an opportunity to really make some positive changes in my life. The first step to doing that was actually just to quit my job and go overseas travelling. So I applied for the UK working holiday visa, which gave me 2 years to live and work in the UK. So 2014, mid 2014, I think I moved from from New Zealand to the UK. I based myself out of London for a couple of years.
Right.
And travelled quite a lot of Europe, a
fun.
little bit of Asia, obviously, you know, a decent amount of Britain, and you know, various other places. And sort of during that time, you know, I had wiped most of my other interests off my plate, like, so, you know, like karate being one of them. And so I had an opportunity, I had, you know, a lot of time to potentially invest in something else. And so where photography came along, and I mean, I guess for me, photography has been, you know, an underlying interest for a long time. I actually studied it in my last year of school. I think my grades weren't great though, but you know, you know, persistence pays off. But anyhow, like during my travels, I got through about 15 countries in probably the first maybe 4 or 5 months of my travels through Europe. In that time I actually came back across to Southeast Asia as well, and I was just, I'd been taking pictures on my smartphone at the time, which were not great quality. And,
I know, that's like me right now.
And you know, I'd started, you know, I'd started, you know, uploading a lot of pictures to my Facebook account, just to sort of show my friends and family what I've been up to, all these interesting places that I've been going, and started getting a lot of really good feedback on my pictures, and I kind of was like, what am I doing? I'm traveling all these beautiful places, taking pictures on a phone. I really need to, like, you know, dive head first into this and get a decent camera to, you know, improve the, you know, first of all the quality, and secondly the, you know, the technical attributes of my images. And so I did. I bought, you know, I guess the best camera that I could afford at the time, you know, because you know, I wasn't working at the time. I was just traveling full time. So yeah, I bought a camera, and that's it all kind of kicked off from there. You know, I had enough time to invest in actually learning how to use the camera properly, and I started, you know, the photography became a vehicle for my travels, you know, and it was like the places I was choosing to visit from there on were places that I thought were incredibly beautiful and that I wanted to, you know, take photos from. So and you know, about a year into that sort of process, I was, you know, I'd started an Instagram account, I'd started a photography page on Facebook, started uploading these, you know, okay photos.
Is it still on Instagram?
Yeah.
Like they're old pages, eh?
They are old pages, but I've still, you know, still, you know, they're still there, and I've got, you know, much better following than I did back then. But yeah, it became, it got to the point, I guess, where I was uploading photos just to show people what I was up to, and then it sort of changed to, well, I feel like I'm quite good at this right now, and maybe I should pursue it and treat it like a business in the hope that would maybe become one and replace my my former professional career. Now,
so that's where you went.
Now, like, between then and now, there's been quite a few years, and there was a lot of kind of overlap and blurred lines, you know, between them. I started doing, you know, dabbling in professional photography and selling photographic art well before I pushed my automotive career to the side. Which, you know, it was frustrating because I was kind of financially bound to this other job, but I was like, I really want to, you know, want to take off, want to pursue this. Pardon me. I want to pursue this other career, and so there was my lust for doing this other job, but it wasn't necessarily achievable at that time. But as I said before, you know, persistence has paid off. So it was all about just, you know, it was all about just putting the pieces in place to pave the way.
Yeah.
You know, building a portfolio of images.
Sort of been advised.
Yeah, partway along the way, my good friend Silas Burton, shout out to Silas Burton.
Okay.
He offered to build me a website once I'd returned to New Zealand.
So there's a website maker or something.
Yeah, what was that? Sorry.
He makes websites.
He does. Yeah, he's in IT. He does make websites, and he's done a fantastic job with my website. My website's still up there. It definitely doesn't get the attention it deserves from me in terms of upkeep, but that's been a platform, very much a platform for my professional portfolio. Silas built me this website. I think it was back in like 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
And that was when I really sort of had the ability to portray myself as, you know, a professional photographer,
right,
even though my commercial portfolio wasn't great.
Right.
My landscape and astrophotography portfolio's were kind of getting there, you know.
Wow.
And eventually it got to the point where I was able to use that portfolio to actually to get another job with, and that job led me down here.
So that sort of, wow. So you built that sort of kicked off that, and then you grew that at the same time as well, full-time working, and
yes.
then to the point where you eventually could financially.
Yeah. So it was all kind of just taking little steps. The big step was in 2018 I quit my job with Mitsubishi. I was living in the North Shore of Auckland at the time, and I was offered a photography and guiding role down here in Tekapo for a company that was formerly known as Earth and Sky, which is now the Dark Sky Project. That seemed like a pretty dreamy role, and it was right up my alley. So I was like,
that's how you came here.
Yeah. So I kind of I packed up in Auckland and moved down here and started doing that job, and that was a really that was a really key sort of experience in actually preparing me for the whole my current role in tourism. Through part of that I was kind of drafted into the guiding team. Obviously Earth and Sky and Dark Sky Project they're Astro tourism operator, so commercial stargazing company for tourism. So my job with them was to primarily take pictures of people who were on the tours with the stars. I'd also do camera collection, which meant collecting people's cameras. Who if the people on the tours had brought their own camera, I would attach their camera to a big tracking mount, like a big telescope mount, which would track the stars as the Earth spins. So I'd take really long exposures with their cameras, and send them home with pictures of deep space objects on their cameras, and just general content creation, that kind of stuff. So that job lasted me nearly 2 years, between sort of late 2018 and the first quarter of 2020, before we went into lockdown.
Before lockdown, I was going
to say. And so this is another phase of change as COVID-19 coming along. I lost that job and became unemployed, which
so that leads me.
That was an experience on its own, but
Sorry, I'm getting cut down.
That's right.
Sorry, I do have a cough, but I'll cut that
Me
out.
too.
Wow, this is it's just there's so many really interesting points to break down. Like, first of all, that big step, like, what was your thought process? Let's start just with that, a little bit about that.
The big step from mechanicking to
because I know I'm really grateful that through this platform and the tourism platform that I have at the moment, I'm meeting so many people that are doing this more, and I want to sort of showcase that more, because I know that there's a lot of people, when I was in a corporate job myself, that are in roles, and it's probably not just in corporate, that you have an excitement for something, but it's sort of how to leave the stability to pursue that, if it's worth it, or like, you know, what will people think if I do this? I'm so curious about how.
That's they're all really good questions, and there's a lot of different answers. And you know, for me, it wasn't all about what other people thought. It was mainly about, you know, pursuing my own happiness. But yeah, like leading up to the point where I had to make that decision, I did go through quite a lot of anxiety, and because you know, because literally I was moving into the unknown. Like previously, this had been my only career, and it had been a Monday to Friday, you know, 8 to 5, so on and so forth. So you know, it was almost like feels too good to be true, but I kind of, you know, it seemed a lot more legit than that. But I kind of had that feeling in the back of my mind of like, I'm not worthy. but this is kind of, you know, it's all part of the, you know, the growing and learning process, I guess, and you build confidence as you go. But you know, there were many factors involved. You know, I was unhappy in my job. I was lusting for, you know, doing something that kind of more that more catered to my creative needs and my sort of technical abilities, which, you know, photography very much does that. You know, does both of those. So that was a no-brainer. I was kind of seeing somebody around that time, which that was really difficult to kind of make that separation as well. That was a big consideration too, when it came to that. And then again, it's about the, you know, it comes down to the financial stability and the whole question of, is this actually going to be viable? And to a point, I think in that situation, sometimes you've just got to take a leap of faith and go, what's the worst that can happen if I do it and it's not right? If I do it and I fail, I just resort to, you know, I have a fallback plan. So and so I really had not much to lose, you know.
That's a cool mindset.
I did have, you know, I did have a good setup in Auckland. It just didn't feel like me, you know. And I was working in a good, stable job. I was being paid well, but it seemed like a bit of a false economy, because I was spending so much of that money flying away to places like this on the weekend to take pictures and all the rest. And I knew about the Dark Sky Reserve down here. I knew that, you know, the Aurora Australis was visible from New Zealand, but I would never get the chance to witness it in the Southern Hemisphere anyway. If I didn't base myself down here, you know, it'd be much more difficult to.
Wow, what a journey!
So like I say, it wasn't easy. You know, and it caused me a lot of stress at the time. But you know, in hindsight, it's one of the best decisions I made, and you know, it's led me on a whole other journey subsequent to actually making that decision. So.
It's so awesome. It's just hearing things like that really inspires me. I think so then that leads really nicely into the Dark Sky Reserve point that you mentioned, because I think for maybe some of us, before Joe before Joe, I didn't actually know about the Dark Sky Reserve and what it was. So maybe a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, and this is kind of the reason, one of the reasons why I'm able to kind of do what I do down here. It's kind of, Lake Tekapo itself has sort of, over the years, it's become, I guess, the epicenter of astrotourism, right? Wow. And there's multiple stargazing tour operators here. There's the Mount John Observatory, all housed within the Mackenzie country, which is also 4,000 plus square kilometres of designated dark sky reserve, where within this dark sky reserve the artificial lighting, or at least the increase of it is heavily controlled. So in terms of the quantity, the intensity, the spectra as well. So all of those things are controlled by the local council and local government, and there's another group of volunteers that are also working towards objectives to do with the conservation of dark sky visibility around here.
So that's basically,
and that's sort of the fact that this region is such a large and high quality dark sky reserve gives you exceptional views of the night sky, even from within residential areas. And that's the beauty of it. But that creates a platform for all of these activities to develop. And the activities are what keep me employed. So,
so for those of you, just to mention, we're actually currently filming this in Tekapo. So we're at the Lake's Edge Holiday Park. We're in a cabin here at the Lake's Edge Holiday Park. And I'm just also shout out to my newly made friends. I'm actually grateful to them because it's actually thanks to them that I've been invited along to be a part of their travel and creative journey as well. And Tekapo is beautiful. Currently doing, as an aside, just to brush on quickly, a 1 week trip here in the south, and so I'm really grateful that we have Joe to talk about the work he's actually doing right here where we're filming this. So
and it's kind of uncanny that you guys have arrived and now it's snowing outside. We've had a very slow start to the winter season here. There's not much snow, well, at least until tonight anyway. There's not been much snow at the ski fields. So
many people want to ski, snowboard, we've passed on times.
So we've been waiting patiently for it, and this weekend it's here. So.
For those of you who are here and are looking to snowboard, well, through Joe that I learned that the Dark Sky Reserve is basically, I guess, am I okay to say it's like a conservation initiative?
Yeah, and it's an international one. And I guess it's based on firstly allowing humans to see the night sky as it should be, as it once was before artificial lighting was invented. For stargazing and appreciation purposes, and also cultural purposes. The night sky's been used as a tool by many cultures for many reasons. Its significance runs really deep, and there's also the the ecological sort of factors as well. There are a lot of effects from artificial light pollution on things like wildlife, which are really highly considered as well in terms of that conservation. Different species are put at risk or affected by increasing levels of light pollution, which leads to different environment, therefore different behaviours, maybe different breeding patterns, different migration patterns and things like that. I'm not an expert on all of these things. A lot of what I know came from the the 2019 Starlight Conference, which is held
Yeah,
at
that's what I
Expo.
wanted to ask you about.
And yeah, I can't remember
Yeah,
everything that was
okay.
said there, but you know, that was a huge leap in awareness for me on, wow, it's not just all about us.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, it's about the whole environment, and you
Which
know,
is
wildlife
so
as well.
awesome.
So
That's really great because like in the tourism, the way I want to sort of promote New Zealand tourism is that we have a lot of scenic landscapes, but I really want to highlight the groups and things that are tying in, say, ecotourism initiatives, what we're doing in the space of conservation and sustainability. So it's really cool to hear things like that there are conferences being held about that, like I didn't even know, and raising awareness about the different forms of artificial light pollution, and that, like you mentioned when we did a call, we're actually really privileged that in New Zealand we have the ability to see this and have this space, because in other countries...
Exactly, yeah. And for me, in what I do, it almost feels a bit cheeky, to be honest, because I grew up in the country in central Hawke's Bay, and subsequently to that moved to the Coromandel, both of which have exceptional. Both of these places have exceptional views of the night sky, and so for me, like, I've always taken for granted that the stars are there at night. But you know, living in places like Hamilton, London, Auckland, I'm like, I see the difference, you know, and the difference is dramatic. So, you know, my first sort of 6 months to a year in Tekapo was quite revealing in terms of, you know, how many people from, you know, foreign countries actually have never seen or never been able to appreciate the stars. And
it's just
crazy. The stars are the oldest thing that there are in our, you know, by our perception. So it's a really important thing to kind of to realize that we should have access to.
It's amazing.
And like, as much as I've always been able to sort of take for granted that I've had good access to starry skies, it now gives me great pleasure to, you know, to show people around the night skies that we have here, and, you know, allow them, you know, take them to a place to where they can really, really appreciate it, and show them around, you know, show them certain features in the night sky, like, you know, constellations and certain star clusters and deep sky objects with the trusty telescope here. So,
so that really ties nicely in with what you're currently doing, and I would really love to promote the work that Joe does, because we were actually meant to try to do one today, but the snow. So
that's how fickle it is.
But so what a journey, and I guess I'd love to pass on to you again about what your current business is. So it's really cool, really, really cool.
So you want me to explain a little bit about what I do? Okay, like I said before, coming down here, I started off doing astrophotography for the stargazing tours as part of that offering. During my time with that particular company, I got to learn a bit more about the guiding aspect, which involved learning a lot more in depth about astronomy. And you know, obviously that included, you know, learning to operate the telescopes and you know, talk about particular night sky objects, certain stars and clusters, and, you know, certain telescope objects that we often look at. Now, I guess that went well for, you know, maybe nearly 2 years. Then obviously COVID-19 swept through. The company I was working for shut down indefinitely during our first national lockdown, and that, you know, that caused many redundancies, one of whom was me.
so tough.
Yeah, it was a bit of a blow, but you know, hey, like I had a very optimistic outlook. You know, firstly, I was surrounded by fantastic friends, you know, whom I was working with. And so the first thing that we did was just packed up and went travelling through New Zealand.
Cool.
Obviously the borders were closed here,
Yeah.
and we spent a lot of time down around Queenstown, Otago, you know, Aspiring National Park, Fiordland National Park,
So
you know, Nelson Lakes, all the rest, and eventually made our way up to the North Island. But you know, when things started to pick up in terms of job opportunities back in Tekapo, I moved back here, and actually reluctantly put my foot back in the automotive industry just to make ends meet. And so that was, and I'm really grateful that they actually extended that offer, because
so nice.
that gave me staying power, and that gave me an opportunity to base myself here and actually to build on my own businesses.
Wow.
And so my initial thought was originally to just pursue my business as a photographer, but then it was kind of like, you know, it was a point of time where diversification seemed really important. There wasn't necessarily a lot of work in any one channel, and so, you know, I was doing a lot of different things at that point. You know, post.
Oh, you mean like
post,
side hustles?
Yeah. Just
I'm
lots of
interested
different
in that.
jobs. You know, so this is in the latter part of 2020. You know, through to early 2021. You know, I was fixing cars a couple of days a week.
Wow.
I was contracting to another small stargazing operator here. And I was doing commercial photography, as well as studying, and I was involved in running photography workshops in the region as well. So like multi-day, you know, field tuition kind of thing, which was super fun. So you know, fingers in lots of pies, and that's kind of how I made ends meet financially. But sort of, you know, in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, you know, I really want to get back into this whole stargazing thing. You know, that's what's really popular here, and I really enjoyed it, and so I kind of wanted to get back into it. But I still, like, I really was craving the liberation of being self-employed. I didn't want to work for anyone else.
I think a lot of people do. Attracted to that.
And I didn't want to work for anyone else, let alone a company that had made me redundant previously. That was handled quite poorly in a few aspects. So I was quite reluctant to go back and work for them. And you know, it was more an opportunity to really give it a go myself. I was kind of like, what have I got to lose?
Again,
if it doesn't work, I'm just going to apply for a job at another one of these places, right? But yeah, so I sort of put together a bit of a few ideas, and you know, this is a lot of what I spent my spare time doing through the lockdowns and through the unemployment, is just brainstorming lots of ideas. You know, what are my strengths? You know, what is not being offered here in Tekapo? You know, it's a really small place with you know, the village has maybe 400 to 500 permanent residents,
really small.
And probably a much bigger turnover of tourists. But you know, it's kind of it's not that hard to find a niche here. And so my niche happens to be that I started a stargazing business on a purely mobile basis, and so this came to this, with this idea came the birth of my little astrotourism company called Alpha Crux.
Yay, here we go, let's promote it.
yeah, it's uncanny that obviously your name's Alpha.
Oh, that's funny.
I've just completely
you explained to me the meaning of it.
So the name Alpha Crux is actually referring to the brightest star of the Southern Cross. Obviously, the Southern Cross is the most well known and most important
so the brightest
constellation.
Sure,
go on. So the southern, the brightest star of the Southern Cross is called Alpha Crux, or A Crux, or Alpha Crucis. It has many names from many different cultures.
Different cultures. That same star is named different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at it from an international sort of perspective, each nation has been able to see the stars from their perspective, and may not have known what another nation has called their version of it. So
like even clusters of stars might be called different.
Yeah, exactly. So even
we had recent Matariki.
Exactly. Yeah. So Matariki, for instance, it's Matariki to the Maori. There's other slight reiterations of that amongst the Pacific Islands, which a lot of them sound very similar to the word Matariki, but then you've got the Greek and Roman rendition, which is the Pleiades or the Seven Sisters. You've got
because there's seven.
Well, seven that are more so visible to the naked eye. Anyway, that's there's quite a few more stars in that cluster. But you've got Japan, it's Subaru.
Subaru is the name of that cluster.
Yeah, so on a Subaru, like on the car Subaru, you'll see the emblem has the seven stars.
So that's actually how they got that. I didn't know that.
Exactly.
Well, there we go.
That's part of how that came to be anyway. So and it goes through. You can refer to any constellation, any star, any constellation. Each culture has their own interpretation of those stars. People, like the human mind, just likes to recognize patterns and shapes. And often people rationalize things by telling stories, or use a certain pattern of stars to remember a certain event or a certain thing that's relevant to their lives. So
fascinating. Wow. So just to mention it again, the name of your business.
The name of my business.
And where we can find you, where to follow you, where we can request bookings.
All right, so the name of my business is Alpha Crux Stargazing and Astrophotography. So I offer private bespoke stargazing tours on a mobile basis, as well as private astrophotography tours and tuition. Because I'm mobile, I service the entire Mackenzie region, plus have the ability to travel outside of those boundaries as well, if needed. So you can find me online. My website, the URL is www.alphacrux.co.nz. And my Instagram handle and Facebook handle are both the same, which is @AlphaCruxStargazing.
Cool.
Right, so bookings you can make online directly via my website. There's a calendar-based booking platform. If you can't find what you're looking for, there's conveniently a contact form on every page. So
cool.
Or is it a link to the contact form? I can't remember.
That's all right. And I'll also add these details in this description, so that for anyone who is coming down this way and has really been wanting to do stargazing, or talk more with Joe about the work he does. Because it was really interesting just to add, you don't just do stargazing tours, you also do tuition. Really cool.
So like astrophotography for me is something that I've done because I'm passionate about it. You know, even if I wasn't doing it for a living now, I think I would still do it for myself, and so probably more so actually. But you know, that's a double-edged sword, that one. But yeah, so a lot of people come here to like Tekapo wanting to take pictures of the stars, but they might not necessarily have the know-how. So I'll get together with them and take them out at night and so you know, cool. Basically teach them how to use their camera in the field. But and that's from, you know, doing anything from real fundamental basics all the way through to, you know, grand big scale
really
panoramas like this. And deep sky imagery and that kind of thing. So, you know, which gets more, you know, more into using telescopes of this size. So, you know, the rabbit hole of astrophotography is actually incredibly deep. You know, and a lot of people don't realise, but you know, you dive deep enough down that hole, you're gonna end up probably doing some kind of research astronomy, if that's, you know, if that's what you want. For me, I'm content still just taking pretty pictures. That's I guess why I got into this, because I like creating art. I like creating nice images, and I like, you know, showing people things that they can't necessarily see with their naked eye, nor, you know, have the ability to travel to those places. So it's nice to be able to, you know, show people what I see and what I do, and also, you know, and also teach them how to do what I see and what I do, you know. It's so special.
So that actually leads really nicely. I'm really excited about this part, because I actually didn't expect Joe to bring along a really beautiful piece of his own artwork, as we can see here, and also to your left, his telescope. There's a lot of terms I don't know in this space, even in photography. I'm actually currently travelling with amazing photographers and videographers.
I'll try not to get into too much of a scientific waffle,
maybe
but
just like a,
what would you like to know?
So, I guess, I don't even know where to start first. So, please tell me about where this picture was taken, and I really am curious about how you took it, and also like the effort it took to produce this.
It's a panorama. It's taken from Tasman Lake out in Mount Cook National Park. So this is Tasman Lake here. You've got basically the moraine wall. You can see this is the rocks that are sort of at the edge of the glacier that the glacier has carved out in a previous time. Over here you've got Aoraki Mount Cook, the tallest mountain in New Zealand, and a few of the other mountains in that kind of range. I don't know the names of every single one of them, but I'm also kind of focus on the night sky. So you've got north here, you've got the Milky Way sort of rising up vertically. So that time of the night, the Milky Way, you can see it rising all the way overhead, from north to south. In the south here, you've got the large and the small Magellanic Clouds. So these are dwarf galaxies.
Dwarf galaxies
outside of the Milky Way. Okay, so
galaxies.
Yes.
I'm so surprised.
So our sun is one star out of the Milky Way of somewhere between 200 and 400 billion stars within our Milky Way galaxy, right? And
so small.
This is what we're seeing from within our own galaxy, including all these other stars, but these two in particular are, I guess, islands of stars or galaxies outside of the Milky Way, right? So the Milky Way we think of as a spiral disc kind of shape, and so they're these two are a little bit detached from that. You know, they're separate clusters of stars, each with billions of stars of their own.
And you managed to capture that?
Yeah, actually you can.
With the naked eye,
yes, you
right?
can. Yeah, you can very much see them. Yeah, on a non-moonlit night, you can very much see them with the naked eye in the south. And the beautiful thing is, here in New Zealand, they are in our circumpolar region, which means they never rise or set. They never dip below the horizon.
So we can. Wow.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if it's clear and it's non-moonlit, you'll be able to see them in the south.
So that means not all countries.
No. So the further.
You're very lucky.
Yeah, the further north you get. The further north you get from here, the lower they will be on the horizon. So.
This is
I'm
an
not
amazing
sure.
photo.
I'm not actually sure how far north you can see them from, but
wow.
yeah, the other notable aspect in this picture is the colour on the horizon, which is called air glow, and that's just residual luminescence in some of the gases in the upper atmosphere. They will have been ionised by the sun's rays. And which causes the molecules or the particles to glow. Yeah, exactly.
I'm so curious, as an aside, sorry to interrupt, is there any connection with that, with climate, like, what is it, like carbon footprint and...
No, this is a very natural, natural thing, yeah. So it's just, you know, it's just the, it happens at an extremely high altitude, but yeah, it's basically gases in it's gases in our upper atmosphere that have been ionised by the sun's rays as a result of that ionisation, or haven't been excited, in other words, by the radiation from our sun. Those particles will release a photon, right, when they come back to their...
Is this part of your study, or like...
This is part of what I would... these kind of things are, you know, would be part of the discussion that I'd have in either talking about my photos, because it features in a lot of my photos, this kind of phenomenon, but otherwise, that sort of particle science is very much a part of
fascinating.
Of talking about the night sky, and especially when it comes to things like star forming regions and the likes. So
cool.
A lot of the same kind of science applies to, you know, things in space. Same as here on Earth, so
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. And so in terms of how I actually captured it, it took a while. It took several days in post-processing. I've had many processed versions to get to this one, and I've actually processed it again recently for a photo competition, but so it was shot with a Sony A7S and a Sony 28mm f2 prime lens.
For photographers out there.
And the sky is also shot using a star tracker, a Skywatcher Star Adventurer mount. So that's basically a little motor that you align the rotational axis of this motor to the celestial pole, or where the Earth's axis projects out into space, and it rotates kind of the opposite way to the rotation of the Earth. So when you put
whoever made that is
very
genius.
Very clever. Yeah, I mean, the principle of it is very simple, but what I'm getting at is, if you put a telescope or a camera onto this mount, then your field of view stays the same, because the mount will track, it'll help your device track the stars. Alright, so this has allowed me, having my camera on this device has allowed me to lengthen my exposures and reduce my ISO sensitivity in order to, you know, maintain firstly pin sharp round stars, and also a lot more detail in the foreground. So
it's just, I'm not sure if it's being captured here, but like the closer details of, just for me, like as someone who doesn't know anything, there's just a lot of stars. That's for me as someone who doesn't really know much about this.
Even the human eye couldn't.
It's crazy.
Yeah, even the human eye couldn't distinguish that many stars in the night sky. And so
because that's right. We can't. This isn't the view I'd get if I was
No,
looking at
no.
Mars.
You would very much see where the Milky Way is. You'd see the Magellanic Clouds. You probably wouldn't see the air glow, but you would definitely very much see a lot of those brighter stars anyway.
Yeah.
These ones here.
And the brighter stars mean they're closer, or
Yeah, they can, if they're bright, they can be close, or they can be extremely big stars, or a combination of the two. Yeah. So
wow.
yeah.
That's
But
just
I think I can't remember how many images this. I can't remember how many images this whole picture is comprised of, but I think the entire image pre-cropping was somewhere near 50 individual frames.
crazy.
And the individual exposures were 30 seconds long each. Yeah.
And you were freezing. Oh my god.
Yeah, actually, it would have been
took to
cold
take this?
because it was June time in 2019, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So you kind of just getting into winter a little bit. It's the start of winter. I remember it being cold, but not ridiculously cold.
Okay.
Like it wasn't, the ground wasn't icing up or anything like
Okay,
that, which made it, safer to move around.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, slipping and sliding. It's just, as an aside, that's an interesting thing that I don't often think about when I see a beautiful photo taken by photographers. I just really want to shout out to the effort that it takes to take a really good photo or video, like even in videos like a 5-second scene, like so much effort goes into that.
You
so
don't
much
get to
editing.
see the operational side of it.
It's like even with the group, I'm just so privileged to be traveling with right now. It's given me so much insight, and it's crazy. So I really appreciate photographers in a new light as a non-photographer person.
Yeah, there's a lot
So
that
that's
goes into it,
amazing.
in terms of planning, execution, post-processing, all that kind of stuff.
So that's just beautiful.
there's
And I just really wanted to ask and say that you also sell.
Yep. So these kind of prints are
for
for
anyone
sale.
who's interested.
Yeah, this one in particular is printed on metal. It's printed on an aluminium media called Chromolux. I have these metal prints produced by Southern Alps Imagery in Wanaka, and they do a fantastic job, as you can see. But yeah, they are things. Yeah, images like this of mine are for sale on my other website, which is just josephpauleyphoto.co.nz.
Right.
Yeah.
So you sell. So Joseph also sells some of his images. I'll also link those details in this episode. I'm just still my mind is just still brimming over all the things I just learned, which is crazy. We're so small. There's just so much.
There's a lot
out there.
There's a lot
crazy.
to know about out there, isn't there?
It's fascinating. I'm just so privileged that we get to learn about this as well in this episode. So thanks for everyone who's listening at the moment. And I guess the next thing would be this right here, which is just, I've been so excited.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so this is my main tool for my stargazing tours. It's a Schmidt-Cassegrain reflecting telescope.
Wow. Okay.
By Celestron. Its aperture is 8 inches, which means it has its primary mirror, its primary objective, which happens to be a mirror rather than a glass lens, is 8 inches in diameter. And with that array of mirrors, we get an effective focal length of over 2 meters, and we effectively get a magnification depending on which eyepiece we have in place. But with this particular eyepiece in place, we have a magnification of around about 150 times. So that allows us to really zoom in on some deep sky objects and star clusters, and even individual star systems and things like that.
Wow.
And so that's kind of a little bit about the optical tube. The mount itself is somewhat robotic. So I will do an alignment on the telescope prior to the tour starting, and with that alignment we get two utilities. The first is it will track the night sky to counteract the rotation of the Earth, and secondly, with the hand controller here, we can choose any object in the night sky to slew to, right? Yeah, which makes things much easier, much more streamlined for me in a situation which is limited in time. Yeah. So if I say go to Alpha Centauri, it will go.
Really?
And
where did you get this
from?
Anyone who's interested.
Well, so you can buy them. I believe you can buy them direct from any Celestron dealer.
Is Celestron a brand?
Yeah, Celestron's the brand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. Shout out to Celestron too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it's a wonderful tool. Yeah. Something I think if I didn't have it, my stargazing tours would not be as kind of complete as they are.
Right.
And very, a telescope is very much something you have to have if you want to do stargazing, at least here in this place anyway.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
crazy. It creates a lot more awareness of what's actually going on way out there. With the optics you can resolve quite a lot, and the more you zoom in, the more you see. And
we spend hours.
It's just it really is mind blowing. Just looking at some of the objects out there.
This is making me really want to do a tour.
Yeah, I mean,
the
we
weather
totally
was great.
But
wow.
Instead, we've got snow.
Right, which is also lovely. Wow. So, I guess anyone who's really wanting to do stargazing, Joe would be the guy here based at Lake Tekapo. And so it's just been really amazing, this whole episode, learning about all of this. So I'm really grateful for your time.
Yeah, no, and, my pleasure.
Thanks. I'll really be sharing this around. So I think we could talk more about so much, but you now have Joe's contact details through his businesses that I'll put in this episode. If you had any other questions, just send them through. Or if you want to learn more, you know where to go. But I guess to finish off this, I think one question I'd really love to ask is, what would your advice be for either aspiring photographers or just people wanting to make their own mark, start their own thing, leave a comfort zone, that kind of thing? Because I believe if there was you, there's actually me. There's a lot of people out there in that position, and it's a big thing to do, but it can be so rewarding, and it can probably lead you closer to, I don't know, what your purpose is, or passion.
A satisfying lifestyle.
Making life more fulfilling.
That's it. Yeah. My advice, that's kind of a tough one. From my perspective, it was an unwillingness to give up and just settle for mediocrity or a mundane job or a mundane life. That really wasn't for me. I do believe strongly in personal development and professional development. So, if you're wanting to get into something like that, whether it's photography or whether it's astronomy or the guiding component, don't hold back when it comes to educating yourself. I've personally just finished a qualification I've been working on for the last 4 years, which is a photography diploma. So I've kind of been working and studying at the same time, and that's filled in a lot of blanks for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's good to have a bit of spare time back.
Oh, nice.
But in terms of my advice for anyone who's wanting to make big changes in their life, no matter what kind of they're in versus what they want to be in. I'd say just really listen to your heart, listen to your gut feeling, in terms of what makes you happy, what would make you happy, what would, what kind of lifestyle would satisfy you, and would become more fulfilling for you. And yeah, don't be afraid to take risks. I've taken plenty of risks, and very few of them have backfired. It's
touch wood, but no.
But yeah, you've kind of just got to, as I said earlier, you've kind of just got to take a leap of faith. Sometimes it's frustrating because it often takes longer for something to come into fruition, or longer for an opportunity to arise than what you wish for, which was very much the case for me earlier on. But then, in terms of becoming self-employed, I was kind of kicked into it by COVID-19, whipping the employment out from under me and being like, go do your own thing. And
I guess it's like a silver lining,
if
I'm allowed to say that.
And I guess, from, to a point, I would recommend, I would give the advice of, try not to get too comfortable.
I like that.
Try not to, try not to, let your life get too mundane or repetitive. I really like to, always be learning something, always be working on some sort of personal development, whether that's education or, physical fitness, or just, going out and exploring and taking photos and things like that, or, learning another language, that kind of thing. Not for a while. It's on my list to do, but I have done small amounts of it in the past, but that was really more so just an example. But yeah, you just, it's just all about personal development and taking risks to achieve the things that you really want to achieve. And so often those risks put people off. The prospect of big changes put people off doing what they would like to do, because it's scary. It is scary to quit your job and move somewhere else where you don't necessarily know anyone, and start a job that you don't know yet whether you're going to be any good at or like, for that matter. But yeah, like I say, you've just got to take a leap of faith and just go for it.
Love that.
What I will say is it is very important that you have a clear objective for what you want to do, but you don't always have to have a completely clear objective of everything that you want to do. For instance, I very much had a clear objective of, I wanted to be a photographer, and I liked doing astrophotography. I wanted to be an astrophotographer, and so that opportunity that I took has led me sideways into this wonderful little facet of tourism, which I'm now working in. So you've got to really pursue what you love, but be open to other things that might come your way. So fortunately for me, the two work in unison.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Joe, for your time. But I'm just so. I love learning about things like this and sharing it around, because it's just so inspiring. And if there's one person that's done it and a few others, hopefully, I guess, in sharing your story or your journey will inspire others to do the same, and knowing that maybe you're not the only one, and to see how someone else has done it, and that it's not all, I guess, a straight path, or it's not always uphill, and that what you might see is like amazing work or an amazing output, there was a lot of hard work, blood, sweat and tears that went into that.
Right,
but
it's
if
not
it's
all
worth
glitz
it.
and glamours,
Yeah,
you know,
that,
there's been blood, sweat and tears.
yeah, I guess.
And,
Freezing and
yeah, freezing my ass off, you know,
yeah.
doing lots of work for free, you know,
Yeah,
like
okay.
I've had to do a lot of work unpaid,
Okay.
and you know, some of that has been just creating the images that I like to create, but in order to, you know, move into the commercial sector, I've had to build that portfolio and get good at doing those things in the first place. So, you know, doing free work is a good way to learn. It's a good way to get that experience and build that portfolio.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Hopefully, that will conclude this episode.
Yeah,
Even though there's so much more to talk about.
We could talk about space for all eternity, really, but yeah.
I just really hope that for everyone that's come across this episode, and I definitely will be sharing this around to raise awareness, I hope we've all taken something that's either, you know, inspired us to reflect, think differently, think bigger, you know, pursue dreams that were maybe just are currently doubts, and to, as Joe said, to take that leap of faith. So yeah, I'm really grateful for everyone that's listened. I'm really grateful for your time, Joe, and
My absolute pleasure.
yeah, thank you so much again to for this opportunity to share this, and
You're very welcome.
and to
thanks,
share this with
and
all.
likewise, thanks
Thank
for inviting me to do a podcast.
This is so awesome.
I
While
can
it's
take that
snowing
box now and be
outside.
like, yeah, I did a
Yeah,
podcast.
cool.
Yeah, cool.
So and also again, shout out to my awesome newly made friends. They're actually here in the background. Because if it wasn't for them, I would not have even been in this trip. Currently here in Lake Tekapo, an awesome Lake's Edge. Shout out to them too, because it's been a wonderful stay, and there's just so much more to explore out there. So many more people, inspiring people to meet, and so.
I guess that's our job down here, It's just to inspire people.
Awesome.
You know.
And so anyone wanting to make bookings, again, last shout out, Joe would be the guy. So thank you so much.
I think what I'll do is I'll send you a discount code that you can add to the.
Look at that!
Yeah, so we'll add a discount code to the.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll add a discount code to the caption for the video, and you guys can go and just drop that in my website at the time of booking, and you'll get a let's say 10% off. Yeah.
Well, there we go. It really gets around. Thanks so much, Joe. I really appreciate it. But
hopefully next time round we get to go to Stargazing.
Oh my, that would be amazing. Yeah. Oh, and also I really have to shout out to Grace because we're actually using awesome camera, because my phone sort of died out part way. But I'm really grateful that we could capture this, and thank you so much, and that's a wrap. See you guys next time.
See you guys.
Bye.
So if you'd like some more positive in our lives, join me in this podcast journey. Subscribe, and I'm always open to new topics and suggestions. Let's keep it moving and grow more of the good things. Thank you so much.